Hey guys, it's Roscoe, and on the Space Couch today I'm going to be reviewing this, James S.A. Corey's Leviathan Wakes. It's the first book of his Expanse series, which is set about 200 years in the future, where mankind has essentially settled throughout the solar system. So the Moon, Mars, the dwarf planet Ceres, various places in the asteroid belt, such as Eros, and also the icy moons of the gas giants. The main characters in this are a guy called Joe Miller, who's a detective on Ceres working for a corporation, because in the future it's all corporate based and they run security for everything. And a guy called Jim Holden, who's the captain of the Rocinante. I'm not sure if I spelt that right. It's actually named after Don Quixote's horse. So what happens is the Rocinante, which is a small ship that is attached to a large one called the Canterbury, which is an ice hauler travelling between the rings of Saturn, where it picks up loads of freshwater ice, and the various asteroids in the belt, and they stumble across a derelict ship. And they send some of the crew over to investigate it, and there's no one there. Deserted. Looks like there's been a really bad fight there also. But when they get to the engine room, the reactor's covered in flesh. It's all very disturbing, but still they don't understand what has happened. And then, while they're there, the main ship, the mothership, the Canterbury, is attacked and destroyed by unknown forces who do not want anyone to know what is going on there. And it turns out that about 2 billion years previously, some unknown alien race had hurled a weapon, they think it's a weapon, they don't even really know for sure, of mass destruction towards our solar system, headed for Earth. But this actually gets captured by Saturn's gravity and goes into orbit around it, and we now know it as the moon Phoebe. And so there's a corporation who discovered the structures under the surface of this moon. They want to find out what's going on, and it turns out it's a proto-molecule that can rewrite DNA from like the level of, like, say, bacteria up to humans and whatever, and change them into who knows what. So obviously, corporations being corporations in the future, they decide they want to know what will actually happen if you release this protomolecule in population. So what do? They release it on the asteroid Eros, which at that time is home to 1.5 million people. Very, very bad things happen there. The two main characters, Holden and Miller, have joined up by this point, and they're both on Eros. Miller's contract is to find this missing rich kid, Julie Mao, who it turns out was on the ship that the other guys discovered, but obviously she wasn't there at that point, and he thinks she might still be alive. So the protomolecule is therefore released on Eros in the meantime, and it's essentially like a zombie outbreak. You know, they're vomiting on you, and it's the vomit that contains the protomolecule and turns you. And they then essentially start melting. Very, very horrible. There's one really good image that is stuck with me. They see this thing on security camera, and they don't know what it is, and it turns out it's a rib cage with an arm attached, making its way across, so dragging itself on who knows what sort of mission. Yeah. So anyway, the main characters, they manage to fight their way off the station. It's a close run thing, but they know as soon as they're off the station, it starts moving. And if you know anything about asteroids, it takes an awful lot of force to start them from moving. All of a sudden, this Eros asteroid, it's heading towards Earth really fast, faster than their spaceships can catch up with it to destroy it, in fact. Very, very bad news for the 30 billion on Earth, because if that gets there, humanity is on its knees if it's not completely destroyed. So anyway, Detective Miller, the cop from Ceres, he realises that his contract, this Julie Mao character, she is actually the patient zero of this protomolecule, and it's her template that's being used. That's why it's heading towards Earth, because it's her memories of Earth that have taken it there. He's feeling really guilty about a lot of things at this point, that subplots in the story that you'll find out for yourself. So he goes back to Eros, knowing that that's a one-way trip, to try and find her and talk to her. You know, try and get her to, don't crash into Earth, you will kill everyone. They kind of use a device that reminds me of, say, the Capricorn thing with Gaius Baltar and Battlestar Galactica, where he's been like seeing her and having conversations with her, even though they've never actually met. I actually quite like that. I thought it worked quite well. So he does find her, or, well, what's left of her, on Eros, and he does have that conversation. He does manage to convince her to not crash into Earth. Instead, it crashes into Venus. And let's just say things start happening down there. That'll come into play in the second book, Caliban's War. Fantastic series. What else can I tell you about it? It's actually going to become a TV series this summer, The Expanse. Can't wait. I actually stumbled across the trailer a couple of weeks ago, and based on that, I bought the first 3 books in the series the very next day, and I haven't regretted it for a second. Go into my playlist and my like videos, and you'll see it in there. It is fantastic. Ceres comes up as a location a lot in this book. And, as you may or may not know, the NASA Dawn mission is just now getting to Ceres after a very long journey. So I'm really hoping that the images of Ceres that we're just starting to get, and the best ones will probably start from March, that they're going to use that in the CGI to represent this dwarf planet. Because we're going to know what it looks like then, so it's going to have to look like what it looks like. Say with Eros, we know what that looks like, so it's going to have to be a faithful representation of that. Other comparisons I've heard, it's the new Game of Thrones. You know how they're always looking for the next Game of Thrones, or the next Harry Potter, or the next Twilight, or whatever. This is the new Game of Thrones, apparently. I wouldn't make that comparison, although I don't know if you saw on the cover of that book at the very top, a quote from George R.R. Martin, Game of Thrones author. It says, "Kick-ass space opera," and it certainly is. It is absolutely fantastic. I would say, I can see why people would give it the Thrones comparison, but if you've ever read Peter F. Hamilton's Nightstones trilogy, or the Confederation series with the Starflower and all that, and Paula Mayo, it's very much in that sort of vein. It is real good space opera, how it should be, and I can't wait for the next ones. And I certainly can't wait for the TV show either. I tell you what, of all the books I've read recently, you know, Mark Hodder and the Revolutions, Space Captain Smith, and the Jack McDevitt, this is the one that is the best. I've never read this author before. It's not an actual person, it's 2 guys collaborating under this name. But, wow, great stuff. You will thoroughly enjoy it. So, that's my review of the first book of The Expanse. I'm about 350 pages into the second one, so I will be reviewing that in the very near future as well. And probably we'll talk about the TV show when that's on. I think June, July, something like that. A lot of time to wait, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be worth it. I was already recognising scenes that I'd seen in the trailer after I'd gotten about 50 pages into the first book. It really is very, very good. Okay guys, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this review, and as always,